The IT department giving its verdict on willful defaulters and some very strong wordings used out there. The IT department has said that they've asked officers not to shy away from invoking rare provisions of arrest in case of willful defaulters, and they've asked them not to really shy away from auctioning attached assets of accused as well. Vijay Ganeshan Iyer is on the line with us. And Vijay, tell us exactly what does the IT department has to say? Some very strong statements by them.
Absolutely, Aisha. This is maybe perhaps for the first time that such unprecedented steps have been directions have been issued by the CBDT. They are clearly telling the IT officials that any person who has been declared willful defaulters, as we all know under the RBI definition and by the banks, on a first note, the IT officials of that particular assessment zone should block their permanent account number or the PAN card. Firstly, secondly, they are also showing, if required, they can use their powers which have been given on a rarest of rare case to arrest these willful defaulters who were false in under their respective zones. Also, they are saying that it should be ensured that these willful defaulters are not getting any more loans from any of the official banking channels. So clearly, they are trying to choke the willful defaulters once they are declared. We all know, say only if we take the example of PNB Bank, there are close to 950 plus people who have been declared as willful defaulters. Of course, Vijay Mallya being the case of point in highlight, but clearly this government is ensuring that they come down heavily and crack down on all the willful defaulters who have been declared, so on and so forth, in any form soever. And also, they should not be given the LPG subsidy, which means clearly any government benefits or subsidies that they are entitled should be stopped immediately. So clearly now it's the IT wing which is being used by the government to ensure they crack down heavily on the willful defaulters.
Indeed, that is the sole aim, isn't it? But Vijay, stay on with us. We also have on the phone line Mr. H.P. Ranina joining in. Mr. Ranina, good evening, and clearly a very stern message coming in from the IT department when it comes to willful defaulters, saying that officers should not shy away from invoking rare provisions of an arrest. They should be not shying away from auctioning, attached assets of the accused as well. With regards to, or rather, in addition to blocking their PAN card and choking further or future loan supply to willful defaulters as well. I would say a very stern message really coming in from the IT department.
Yes, I think so. But the point is that these powers have always been there in the past. The power to attach assets, the power to auction them. But so far, the tax department has never invoked those powers or done them in very few cases. So as far as willful defaulters are concerned, apart from that, I think what is important is prosecution. The real issue is that we have provisions in the law which say that a person who is a tax evader or a willful defaulter will be liable to prosecution. Now, prosecution is the real weapon which the government has. And for that, they need special courts, because if they go to the normal criminal court, it will take years and years before the matter is finally heard. So the government has to set up special courts in order to expedite prosecution. Small things like giving up LPG subsidy or cancelling the subsidies, peanuts. I mean, they don't care a damn for these subsidies. That's not the real deterrent. And even cancelling the PAN card, I don't know why cancelling the PAN card means that they will continue not to pay tax. Why should they? It should be the other way around. In fact, they should be under surveillance and under scrutiny in every single assessment here in future. So I don't agree with that PAN card cancellation, because that's absurd. That means there cease to be taxpayers.
Mr. Ranina, if you could just hold your thoughts, if I could also get in Mr. Luna, who is joining us at this point of time. Mr. Luna, do you think this is an unheard of decision? Because we have not seen in the past that government is taking such a tough decision and has asked the IT officials to crack down so heavily on the willful defaulters. How do you see this step of not only, Mr. Luna, this was for you. How do you see this decision where the IT officials have now been asked to not only arrest but if required cancel their PAN card and to ensure that they are choked when it comes to the whole of financial systems once you are declared a willful defaulter?
Well, I don't know this cancellation of PAN card, how it is going to help. Generally speaking, what is intended is that these willful defaulters, they should not be entitled to any further financial assistance. But with this cancellation of PAN card, If the intention is that they should be put to all kind of hardships, I don't know what is the object behind this. I'm not very clear that what object is going to achieve.
Also, we have a tax expert, Mr. Dinesh Kanabar, joining us. Mr. Kanabar, thanks for sparing this time. This is Vijay Iyer here. Sir, your first reaction on this orders issued to the IT officials at every zone on clamping down heavily on willful defaulters. How do you see this?
So, the way I would look at it is that obviously if there is a person who is defaulting willfully on payment of tax dues, the tax office should do everything and more to recover the dues. Where I do see a challenge is that there are several times where there are matters which are pending in litigation, and the tax office then acts in a high-handed manner to try and recover the dues in the meantime. And one has seen several such instances happen in the past. And therefore, before one reaches a conclusion of a willful defaulter, which obviously is contained in the Income Tax Act, so if you recollect, when the Prime Minister met up with the tax officials, he spoke of two things. He spoke about a humane approach and a firm approach. And my only concern with this circular is that while in principle it is absolutely a right thing that the tax office should try and recover all their dues sooner rather than later, it should not happen that people are unnecessarily classified as willful defaulter when things are pending in litigation and coercive measures are taken.
Mr. Ranina, if I could ask you this, if you go through the order that has been issued, it clearly says that the machinery of the tax recovery officer should be strengthened by providing more infrastructure and manpower. So, where you are mentioning of dedicated courts or dedicated machinery, do you think that particular aspect of manpower or putting dedicated resources has been taken care, where they are saying that the tax recovery officers numbers or perhaps the resources given to him would be strengthened to only deal with willful defaulters?
Well, the important point is that willful defaulters have to be targeted first, because when you have got hundreds of thousands of other taxpayers, we should first focus on the willful defaulters. As the Revenue Secretary, Dr. Adya, has been saying, the tax department should concentrate on a few people and then make sure that they are prosecuted. Only that will send the right signals. If you go after too many people, you'll end up doing nothing. So this is the whole objective. If there are willful defaulters, go after them, get their assets, auction them, recover the dues as soon as you can, and that will send the right signal to the rest of the people.
Before I could take this discussion forward, I request all our guests to just hold on. I could bring in my colleague Gaurang from Delhi, who covers the North Block. Gaurang, what has been the whole rationale and what is been the thought process before coming out with this decision? Now the IT department has been asked to clamp down on willful defaulters?
Well, it's certainly, taking off from the entire objective of really cutting down on this entire issue of willful default. You've got 2 or 3 clear steps which the tax department is proposing according to these reports. Essentially, the one, of course, the objective of cancelling the PAN really appears to be to make sure that any of these willful defaulters are not able to essentially register properties, with those PAN cards. So essentially, it is, of course, intended to make sure that willful defaulters who don't pay their dues still continue to purchase and sell property with impunity, continue to be able to conduct financial transactions. It's really intended to make sure that they are not able to do that. Of course, there is, the aspect, of them paying their taxes, and that the PAN card obviously is a useful tool there. But the idea there clearly is to make sure that no genuine financial transactions, go through while they are, of course, defaulting. The other major aspect appears to, of course, be to, capture a vast amount of data which is already out there. Now, these reports, of course,
Gaurang, if you could just hold your thoughts, if I could just get in quickly before we wrap this discussion. Mr. Kanabar, if I could ask you this particular aspect. We all know this particular circular deals with the willful defaulters under the IT Act. But also, if I could ask you, there have been a lot of willful defaulters declared by the banking industry on RBI guidelines. PNB itself has put in more than 950 names plus of willful defaulters. Would IT department in that sense target these willful defaulters also to larger the ambit of, say, they have been declared by the banking or any other regulator? How do you look at that?
So if a person is a willful defaulter, so far as the banking industry is concerned, there is now an internal mechanism to say that a person cannot be financed by any other financial institution if he is willful defaulter qua one. I would view this particular circular which is being issued today as a standalone thing qua Income Tax Act. Under Income Tax Act, there are willful defaulters of various types. For example, there are people who deduct taxes at source and do not pay it into the government. There are people who have their tax dues and do not pay it. There are all sorts of things. And I think we should link it with the financial institution default because that's a separate provision in itself.
Once again, all three gentlemen, Mr. Ranina, Mr. Luna and Mr. Dinesh Khanabar, thanks for sparing this time and giving your thoughts. Aisha, so back to you. Clearly, government this time via the IT department wants to clamp down when it comes to willful defaulters.
Yeah, indeed, and quite sternly so, I must add. In the meantime, Infosys co-founder and Aadhaar architect Nandan Nilekani has said that he's disappointed that Raghuram Rajan will not get a second term at the RBI.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/etnow and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at etnowlive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/etnow.